Imagine waking up covered in fleas, sleeping next to animals, and not bathing for months because water was considered dangerous. This was daily reality in 1348, and what you're about to discover will make you grateful for modern plumbing, soap, and basic human dignity. Medieval people didn't shower for years. They disposed of waste carelessly, used natural materials for hygiene, and considered cleanliness a luxury. Only nobility could afford, but even kings and queens lived in conditions that would shock us today, because understanding of germs and disease was non-existent, lurking in every corner, every piece of food, every breath of air in those crowded medieval cities where survival meant accepting conditions we'd find unthinkable, and what we consider basic rights were dreams beyond imagination for most people. Let's start with the most shocking truth. Medieval people bathed maybe once or twice a year, and many went their entire lives without ever fully submerging in water, because the church taught that bathing was sinful. Exposing your body even to yourself was seen as vanity, plus water was believed to open pores and let disease enter your body. So people actively avoided bathing, and instead they used dry cleaning methods like rubbing themselves with linen cloths to absorb oils and sweat, which obviously didn't work effectively, so unpleasant odors were constant. The smell was so overwhelming that perfumes and strong herbs became essential, just to mask the reality of unwashed human bodies living together in close quarters for extended periods of time. Toilet paper didn't exist, so what did medieval people use? Anything available? Hay, straw, leaves, moss, smooth stones, even corn cobs for those fortunate enough. The wealthy used wool or linen rags they'd reuse multiple times, washing them occasionally in water, but most peasants just grabbed whatever was nearby, and communal toilets were challenging. Imagine a wooden bench with holes cut in it. Everyone sitting together, no privacy, no separation, waste collecting in a pit below that would overflow during heavy rain and flood the streets with sewage, turning every medieval city into an unsanitary environment during storms when water levels rose, and people walked barefoot or in thin shoes, tracking contamination everywhere they went, into homes, churches, markets. Inside medieval homes, conditions were challenging because families shared one-room houses with their animals, cows, pigs, chickens, all lived inside for warmth and protection. The floor was just dirt, covered with rushes and straw that absorbed spills, but was rarely changed, sometimes for months, creating a decomposing layer of organic matter beneath their feet where rats, fleas, and lice thrived in ideal conditions. And speaking of parasites, everyone had them. Literally everyone from kings to beggars was affected by lice, fleas, and other parasites. Children played games helping each other remove lice from hair because it was so common that having these creatures on your body was just part of being human in 1348, something everyone dealt with regardless of social status. Dental hygiene was non-existent. Toothbrushes wouldn't be invented for centuries, so people used their fingers or chewed on twigs to clean their teeth. By age 30, most people had lost several teeth to decay and gum problems. And dentists were just barbers who extracted teeth with basic tools and no pain relief, which was an ordeal people avoided until absolutely necessary. And oral health challenges were so universal that nobody even noticed anymore because everyone struggled with similar dental problems and ongoing discomfort. Hair care was equally primitive. Combs existed, but they were luxury items that most people never owned. So hair became matted and tangled easily, which women hid under veils and head coverings constantly, both for modesty and to conceal unkempt hair conditions. Food preparation was a sanitation challenge. Kitchens had no running water, no refrigeration. Meat hung in the open air until it started spoiling, which they covered up with heavy spices. Not for flavor, but to mask the taste of aging food that people ate regularly because wasting food meant starvation. So mild digestive upset was just another Tuesday in medieval life where stomach problems were constant companions, and water was so questionable that everyone drank ale or wine instead. Even children consumed weak beer for breakfast because clean water simply didn't exist In cities where human and animal activity contaminated every source, and dishes were rarely washed properly, just rinsed quickly and reused immediately, which spread illness. But they had no understanding of germ transmission, since microscopic organisms wouldn't be discovered for centuries. They ate from shared bowls and utensils, passing everything around, because they had no concept that invisible organisms were causing illness. Instead, they believed bad smells caused disease. So they'd smell flowers and herbs while walking through unsanitary areas, thinking the pleasant scents protected them from harm. And medical treatments were based on balancing bodily humors. So if you were sick, they'd use bloodletting with leeches or small cuts to release bad blood, making patients weaker, which they'd then blame on divine will, rather than their medical approach limitations. Because medicine was intertwined with religion and philosophy, rather than scientific observation and experimentation as we know it today. Childbirth was extremely dangerous for women, with no modern sanitation, no sterilized instruments, and midwives who worked without modern medical knowledge. And sadly, many mothers and babies didn't survive. And if the baby lived, its chances of reaching adulthood were challenging, because childhood illness was common in this era, where sleeping arrangements meant entire families shared one bed, spreading every illness instantly to everyone. And beds themselves were filled with straw mattresses that harbored insects and parasites that affected sleeping people every night, and scratching bites with unwashed hands often led to skin infections that were difficult to heal in environments without modern medicine or antibiotics, creating a cycle of minor ailments that just became part of daily existence. Clothing was rarely washed because fabric was expensive and laundering damaged it, so people wore the same outfit for extended periods, absorbing sweat and oils until the fabric became stiff and worn. And underwear didn't exist for most people. They went without under. Rough wool and linen that chafed skin, and laundry day happened maybe twice yearly, when clothes were boiled in harsh lye soap that damaged fabric and irritated skin, so most people delayed washing as long as possible, despite accumulating odors over many months. Personal privacy didn't exist either. People handled bodily functions publicly, shared intimate spaces, and changed clothes in front of everyone without shame, because modesty, as we understand it, simply didn't exist in cramped medieval living conditions where space was scarce. The wealthy weren't much better off. Castles were freezing, drafty stone buildings where nobles slept in beds with heavy curtains, not for privacy but for warmth. And even kings had chamber pots managed by servants called grooms of the stool, whose actual job was assisting the monarch with personal hygiene, which was considered a position of great honor and trust in the royal household hierarchy. Castles had guardrobes, toilets built into walls that dropped waste down chutes directly outside where it accumulated against the foundation, creating unsanitary conditions that attracted vermin and spread disease. Even in palaces, where nobility lived in luxury, above these sanitation problems. The Black Death that devastated millions in 1348, it thrived in exactly these unsanitary conditions everywhere. So why did medieval people live like this? Because they had no choice. Soap existed but was a luxury only the wealthy could afford. Clean water required wells, or rivers often miles away. Hauling water for bathing meant hours of exhausting labor that struggling peasants couldn't afford, when every moment was spent surviving. And heating water required firewood, another precious resource that meant choosing between bathing or cooking food or staying warm in winter. Hygiene was a luxury they literally couldn't afford in their daily struggle. But here's what's remarkable. Despite living in conditions we'd find extremely challenging, they survived. They built magnificent cathedrals, created beautiful art, wrote timeless literature, and eventually built the foundation for our modern world. We came from their struggles to our comfort,